All right, guys, some breaking news here. I'm telling you, I'm looking at some of these watches that are starting to come out. You're already starting to see some high wind watches also get issued from the National Weather Service. And looking at some new data that's coming in from the models, really impressive looking. That continues to be the case with all of this energy that's moving out of the Rockies that's going to kick into the plains. We're looking at an incredibly strong storm, in my opinion. Maybe, arguably, at least from the winter season, at least this year, probably the most powerful storm we've seen this year so far. With a negatively tilted trough here, you're going to get not just some severe weather, but also some snow, some strong winds on the northwest side of this low as it deepens. And this is just classic textbook jet streak here. I mean, I studied meteorology at Mississippi State, and I'm just telling you right now, that is what we call diffluent flow or divergence. You can see everything spreading away from this jet streak, evacuating the thunderstorms that are going to be forming in this area. So it's no wonder that the Storm Prediction Center highlighting this area here across southern Mississippi, Louisiana, and also in parts of Arkansas too. But they've hashed out this area of Louisiana and Mississippi for a significant risk for severe weather on day 3. That's the forecast period. So this would be for Tuesday. So we're going to dig into those details today. We're going to talk about the blizzard conditions that I think are also possible on the northwest side of this low. A lot of wind. Blizzard conditions are when you reduce those visibilities with whiteout conditions below a quarter of a mile for at least 3 hours. We could see that in a few spots. So very interesting to see that. Hope you guys are doing well on this Sunday evening. Thanks for coming by. It's a live stream. You're getting the beginning here, and then we're going to get into the forecast. I'll cut this off at some point later, and we'll leave these videos up. So if you ever come over and you see the videos on the channel, and if they're live, if you miss it, that's okay. I'll leave them up for playback too. So good to go. Yeah, third winter for Minneapolis. And that's the thing, right? March typically brings some of the strongest storms that we see this time of year, at least for, that didn't make any sense. March typically is the time of the year, that's where I'm trying to go with that, is when we see some of these really strong storms. And it's one of the reasons is because you start to heat up the lower part here of the United States, the sun getting much stronger, you have a much stronger temperature difference, and that really drives and fuels these storms. And not only that, we're getting some upper level energy that's kicking out of the Rockies, and you're going to develop what we call a lee side low as that parcel of air stretches. Just imagine it moving off of the Rockies, and as it does so, the ground disappears. It doesn't really disappear, right? Your elevation goes down, and what happens? You stretch that column of air, that parcel of air, and you start to develop surface low pressure, and you get that rising motion, and that's what we're going to see. Rapid cyclogenesis is going to happen. Big cyclone wrapping up. That's what you call an area of low pressure. Okay, so it's not a hurricane or anything, but certainly a strong area of surface low pressure. So very interesting to see. So we've got a really strong storm, again, that's kicking out of the southwest and the upper levels. Two pieces that we're watching, and I think this is why we're going to see a really strong storm. The first piece really is up across Canada. The second we're going to talk about is clear to see across the southwest. Notice how this little ripple here in the northern branch of the jet phases, ba-bang, right there with this southern piece of energy. When that happens, you get a negatively tilted trough. Now you've got a really strong storm that's going to rapidly develop. And when that happens, surface low pressure just takes off, and it's on at that point. The interesting thing, though, as this thing gets really negatively tilted trough, it's going to bring some severe thunderstorms to the east, I think, even from parts of Maryland and Virginia down into Georgia. As everything pushes to the east, but also some much colder weather behind this too. So we're going to take a look at that today. And then, again, there is going to be a snow aspect to this as well. Here's a look at the surface pressures. I think this is really interesting. Watch how explosive this low gets once it moves into Kansas and Nebraska, a 990 millibar low, dropping to 986, continuing to drop as it moves into Missouri, 984, down to 983 as it approaches the Great Lakes. So a strengthening area of low pressure. And on the northwest side of that, we're going to see some really strong winds too. With that snow, it wouldn't be shocking to get blizzard conditions. And check this out. We've already got winter storm watches up for parts of South Dakota, Nebraska, even over into Colorado and southern Wyoming, and down into parts of Kansas too. High wind watches. You've got that out now for a good chunk of Nebraska, into Kansas, down into Oklahoma and Texas. And this is interesting too. As you look into Louisiana, these watches here are up for strong southerly flow, strong southerly winds that are going to pick up out ahead of our storm. So some big wind with this system. And speaking of the wind, take a look at this wind field. These are the wind gusts that are expected on the model that's showing up on the models. And we're going to dive into the precip too, but take a look at the wind behind this system, picking up 40 to 50. The National Weather Service is talking about gusts could be up to 60. So you can imagine some snow back here with 1 to 4 or 5 inches of snow. You're blowing at 60 miles an hour. It's easy to see how you could reduce those visibilities and get blizzard conditions. So we've got a blizzard here, and we've got severe thunderstorms. Look at the wind out ahead of this system too, gusting up to 50 to 60 just with the surface winds. And then behind this low, big winds from Oklahoma down into Texas, gusting 40, 50, in some cases close to 60. As this low moves toward the Great Lakes, the wind is a little bit lighter. I don't want to say light, but we're still talking about gusts that could be up to 50 from Ames all the way up to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then moving into Wisconsin. So really windy with this system as it moves off to the east. And also across the east, we're going to see a tremendous amount of wind with this too. I mean, look, hold on to your hat this week. I mean, even if you don't see severe weather, this is going to be an extremely windy storm as it moves off to the north and east. This is a big picture look, and then we're going to dive into some of those details a little bit closer here with the tornado threat, also the severe damaging wind threat. Snow starts to pick up on the northwest side of this as we head into Tuesday across Nebraska. We'll start as rain across Iowa, also even, I think, southern parts of Minnesota, also Wisconsin. I think you start as rain, and your cold air loft really back here. Severe thunderstorms out ahead of our low pressure that continues to develop and move toward the Great Lakes. Winds pick up across the east. They're really going here across the northwest side of this storm, and now you've got heavy snow, rain transitioning to snow across northern Kansas, and look at that, really getting heavy across parts of Iowa, and then into eastern Nebraska, and now it's snowing heavy into southern Minnesota and into central and north Wisconsin, into the UP of Michigan. Now, the UP is going to be a little interesting. We'll probably start as rain here too and then go over to snow. And then here comes your severe weather and a lot of wind and rain moving east behind this. And I'm telling you what, once your front moves through, it's going to continue to blow. You're going to see windy conditions around this big low as it spins off to the north and east. And then look at this. Across the west, we're looking at our next system already starting to take shape. We'll come back to that in just a second. Let's talk about the severe weather heading into Monday from Kansas down into Texas. The biggest threat would be here across Oklahoma and Texas. Really, a lot of this would be heading into the afternoon and evening into tomorrow night out ahead of our front as our low pressure develops and then starts to move north and east. And this leads into the next day, into Tuesday, as we continue to see that shift off to the east. A little bit of a different look here. I wanted to show you this on day 3. They've categorically hashed this area out here across Louisiana, Mississippi. It's an area of significant, at least a significant threat of severe thunderstorms, damaging winds, and clearly tornadoes possible with a lot of wind shear. That change of wind direction with height is there. So a dangerous situation, in my opinion, at this point. So now's the time to prepare. Have a way to stay weather aware when those warnings come out, whether it's to your phone, NOAA weather radio. Just have something to wake you up because some of these tornadoes and some of these severe thunderstorms may move through at night. Let's time some of this precipitation out. It's going to be snowing across the 4 corner states, especially into the mountains of Colorado and Utah. We're just getting the stage set for our storm, and then we'll start to see some showers break out. Now, timing this out, look at this. This would be Monday night. This is Eastern time above me here. I can only show one time zone, so just take an hour off for Central. So you get the idea of the time we might start to see some of these storms initiate in the middle of the night. So when we went back and we look at that severe risk here into Oklahoma and Kansas and Texas, some of that would be for these storms that developed Monday night into early Tuesday morning. A squall line developing. What I think needs to be watched is as we start to develop that southerly flow here, low pressure developing, your winds aloft coming at a different direction than your surface winds. So now your thunderstorms are going to want to rotate. I showed you we've got good dynamics aloft, not good in a good way, but I guess good if you're a thunderstorm and you like to develop. Again, everything fanning out from this jet streak, so everything coming together and a lot of unstable air ready to produce some strong thunderstorms. The only thing that could save us, and I'm hoping we can get this, would be as we head through the day Tuesday, if we can get more cloud cover here, if we don't break out into the sunshine, we'll clearly be in a better position. However, you've just got so much wind shear, a lot of your energy up in here. And I'll tell you what, watch into Iowa too. All right, we may get some weird things happening up here with some hail, some damaging winds, if we can get into this warm sector. All right, and then your front, if it's like this, you've got to imagine something like this, low pressure back here. You're going to have a warm front probably laying in here like this. What happens around this warm front, right? So you have some wind shear here too that could cause some rotating thunderstorm. So watch the north side of this storm as well. And then on the southern side, we've got anything out ahead of your line here. I think you've got to watch. And then embedded in your thunderstorms, that's where you could get some rotating storms that produce tornadoes as well. But supercells certainly possible. And then damaging winds with a lot of wind aloft that could be translated down to the surface. We could see some strong damaging winds. And look at the snow. Let's talk about this too, because blizzard conditions, I think, possible back into Nebraska as we head into the day, really Monday night into Tuesday morning. Big snow's going back here. It doesn't last very long, but it's going to be really windy, and then we quickly transition. Look how fast that's going to happen across Iowa, also into northern Kansas, into eastern Nebraska. And let me just tell you here, this is where microphysics is really going to play a part in what happens with the snow. So, right, you go from rain to boom, snow, just like that. I mean, even down to Kansas City, I think we go over to snow for a brief period here. The thing is, it's going to be super windy, right, with a east, then eventually turning in from the northwest, wind here blowing. You got to imagine you start off with a really wet, heavy snow, right, when you flip from rain to snow. And the colder it gets, the lighter the snow gets, and the more powdery it gets. Now you're going to start dealing with that blowing snow. So the question is, do we end up getting blizzard conditions here because of the blowing snow? We may not get feet of snow. And don't get it crooked here and think, oh, a blizzard means we're going to get 2 feet of snow. Not necessarily. It just means you're going to have whiteout conditions, basically, or visibility less than a quarter of a mile for at least 3 hours. That's the definition of a blizzard. And we may see that, especially if you can get cold enough and you can get that snow blowing around. So this could be a not just a dangerous situation on the severe weather side, but also some really strong winds. And now you've got the snow blowing around and causing blizzard conditions behind our storm. Let's go a little bit further to the east and look at our future radar as we head through the day Monday. Again, fairly quiet across the east. It's going to take a little time before this moves east into the Mississippi River Valley as we head into really Tuesday into Wednesday. Now moving here into Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas too. You're really in the path here too, into Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri. It's just going to be a really volatile situation as this moves off to the east. Now, once we move into Tuesday night, I mean, watch Tennessee and Kentucky too. We've not talked a lot about this area, also into southern Illinois and southern Indiana if we back this up. Right in here. So as we move into Tuesday afternoon, maybe your highest risk isn't here, but I don't think it's a zero threat of severe weather. And then especially here into Kentucky and Tennessee, as this moves east through the day Tuesday into Tuesday evening, Tuesday night, we'll start to see this likely weaken as it moves east into Alabama. But you got to realize dew points are going to be on the way up. We may not have the daytime heating, but we're going to be in an environment that's going to be highly sheared. And I think this could be a potential severe outbreak here that we have to watch through the overnight. And then it translates to the East Coast. And that's why the Storm Prediction Center, if you look at the extended outlook, which goes out to day 4, is still watching the East Coast here from southern New Jersey, Virginia, the Piedmont, the coastal plain, all the way down to South Carolina and Georgia. So as these storms push off to the east, they're still going to be on the strong side to severe. Let's look at the snow, though. I mean, that's another thing, too, that if you're looking at snow totals, this is the official forecast numbers. They're not that high, right? You're talking about 4, 5, 6 inches, but look, they're pretty elevated up here into parts of the UP of Michigan and in northern parts of Wisconsin. Zooming in, Twin Cities, 2 to 4 inches is the official forecast. Much lower amounts across Nebraska, down to an inch or 2, 3, 4 inches or so. Zooming in a little bit closer here into northern Wisconsin, you're looking at 4, 5, 6 inches or so once you get into the UP here. But I want to show you something that's interesting. Check out the latest European model here. This is modeling out some of that snow. I think it might be a little bit on the heavy side, but you get the idea that some of these areas could see, I mean, they're modeling out more than 6 inches. I mean, you can read this, almost a foot of snow here into parts of northern Wisconsin. And you combine, 4, 5, 6 inches of snow with winds gusting up to 50 or 60, you're going to have some issues with visibility, blowing snow, and all of the above hazards. All right, we're not done with winter quite yet in many areas. All right, low pressure starting to get really vertically stacked as we head into Wednesday, and a lot of the dynamics, again, moving north toward the Great Lakes. So you'll have a squall line, you'll have some severe weather here on the southern side of this, but if I had to tell you, Tuesday to me looks like the strongest day for at least the strongest storms. It doesn't mean we're going to escape it, though, unfortunately, as this heads to the east. Windy conditions out ahead of it. Rain moving into the northeast, into the eastern seaboard. We've got rain showers here. Really warm, too. That warm air punching all the way up into Canada. You've got your warm front, though, laying here on the north side of that. Some heavy snow in that is also going to fill in on the backside of our low, again into Wisconsin and then into the UP of Michigan. The rest of Michigan, we'll see some rain, changing to snow behind this, and some snow also into Indiana, Ohio, maybe even as far south as Kentucky and Tennessee. And this isn't going to be a lot of snow. This is just your wraparound moisture, some cold air moving in. You're going to get some upslope here into the mountains. I think we get some snow showers lingering, and then cold air moves in behind this. And then look, another system that we're watching, this could bring more snow by the end of the week. Not a lot, but some light snow into parts of northern Indiana, northern Ohio, into Michigan. And we're not done with the cold. In fact, if anything, it stays below average, at least behind this storm. Look at these temperatures pumping up ahead of this system, close to 60 towards Detroit as we head into Wednesday. I mean, you've got mid-60s and 70s out ahead of your front. It's clear to see where that front is. And once we push that warm air out, temperatures drop like a rock. We get back down below freezing from Louisville back to Lexington. We warm up some, though. Look how much colder, though, on Thursday. Highs in the 40s. It kind of felt like spring was here a little bit, but yeah, it's not lasting in some areas. Another surge as we head into Friday, so temperatures on the way back up, but the European wants to cool things down again for the Great Lakes area as we head into next weekend. We'll be watching that. Across the Central Plains, here's a closer look at the storm here as it wraps up. We've looked at the future radar at least through this point in time, but you get the idea. That snow starts to exit now as we head into Thursday and Friday. We dry out, high pressure building in. Looking pretty decent here as we head into Thursday and Friday. And now we're watching another system. This looks really impressive, but the upper level dynamics aren't nearly as strong as the storm we're seeing right now. In fact, look at that. Low pressure weakening as it heads to the east. That's that light rain and snow we were looking at there in northern parts of Indiana, Ohio, and into Michigan. And then some showers to the south of that across Tennessee, Kentucky. Again, much lower of a severe threat. And what do we have here? Something weird happening on the European from today. Trying to punch some cold air here into North Texas with a little bit of rain-snow mix. Let's see how all that pans out. But after this, temperatures, I think, on the way back up here from the Central Plains heading into next week. And then across the west. And then I want to show you sort of the long-range outlook too. So hang with me. You folks across the West Coast, you're dealing with quite a bit of rain and snow here. Scattered around, right? Someone was asking me, why is it all broken up? Well, it's really driven by your mountains and your terrain, especially into the west where you've got mountains. Some areas, especially into Nevada, you'll get down into the deserts and then head up into the mountains, and if you look at annual precipitation amounts, I'm getting a little bit geeky on you, you'll end up with just so much more precipitation. So, yes, the snow is broken up into the mountains across the west just because of your terrain. We're drying out some, though, and then we're watching this next storm move into the southern part of California, maybe by Wednesday and Thursday. That could put some heavy snow back into the Sierra. That's something I think is worth watching. All right. Again, this is your upper level winds. Again, a lot of wind with this storm. And then behind this, I want to show you what's going on in the upper levels. We talked about at least through Thursday or Friday. There's that cold air aloft that starts to move into the southwest as we head into Friday and Saturday, kind of weakening. But if you look at the upper level pattern by the end of the week heading into next weekend, warm ridging across the west, that makes sense to me. And I'm telling you what, kind of miserable here in the east. Temperatures below average, no warm up expected through the weekend, I think. So, I mean, yeah, we're going to get warm out ahead of our storm right here, right? But look, if you track our temperatures, not just across the east, but even into the central U.S., numbers on the way down as we get some northwest flow developing here. And there's that upper low across parts of Texas. So keeping temperatures here generally below average through the week, I think, once this front blows through and we get rid of this storm. Now, just for kicks, in fact, I have not looked at this just yet. I'm going to look at this on the fly, at least the newest run that came out earlier today. We're going to look at the European weeklies, which is ensemble guidance. It goes out a little bit further, and I think we will warm up. I mean, eventually across the east, we go up and down, a bit of a warm up as we head toward the 10th and the 11th and the 12th. You start to get a big trough digging into the west, and now almost more of zonal flow here across the east and turning a little more southwesterly, and that puts some colder air back across the west. That could mean a stormy pattern for the West Coast. And what about the rest of March? Are we going to get a big March storm? Honestly, if anyone tells you, yes, we are or we're not, who knows? March can be full of so many surprises. I remember one night, 2 nights before we were forecasting back when I was on television, we were looking at a storm, and I was thinking, 3 to 6 inches. It's Friday night. I'm going, this might be a 6+ inch snow. And I'll tell you what, Saturday, before the snow started, the last television broadcast we do, I look at the map and I go, I think we need to print 12 to 18 on this map. March can be full of all kinds of surprises. So don't Don't give up yet if you're a snow lover. If you're tired of winter, unfortunately, again, it looks like temperatures could be a little bit colder than average. And hey, thanks, Jason, for that super chat. And hey, everybody, thanks for your support too. Those of you who are coming over to the channel and watching the videos, I appreciate you sharing the videos with other folks. If you're brand new, I'm Travis. I used to be a chief meteorologist many years ago on TV, and I've been out of that business for a while. And I enjoy the weather. I'm a weather geek at heart. And if you enjoy this kind of content, I hope you'll consider coming back and subscribing if you're brand new. OGs, keep it real. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Be safe. I'll have an update for you tomorrow, Monday. See you then.